Another part of your body that you want to camouflage is the back of your neck and head, and also your ears. And what you want to do is just break up the pattern again using your dark green and your light green.
What I'm doing is, because my gloves are a little bright, but these are the gloves I prefer to wear in the field, just take a little of the soil, darken them up a little bit. My hands are not going to be seen while I'm stalking or crawling, but still it's not a bad practice to get into, just to dirty them up a little bit. You're going to be crawling around in the dirt and the mud and the sand or wherever, so it's not really going to make that much of a difference.
Before a stalk, retouch your face and any other bare skin that may have lost paint during prepping activity. The front of the neck seems to be a spot that needs double checking.
One of the things we're going to do to help aid the camouflage is going to add some natural vegetation to Ron's suit here. So what we'll do, take a look around the area we're going to be operating in and try and get some of the vegetation at near or below level, because he's not going to be up and walking around, he's going to be crawling. So we're going to take like some of the scotch brush and sawgrass that's around here and apply this to the back, because that's the nice thing about this netting, is that you can stick it right in there and almost weave it in. So we'll do take some of these pieces here, and again, you don't want 15-foot sections because it's going to be wiggling around like this. So you want fairly small pieces, about like this. We're just going to weave it in and out of the material to help break up the outline and make the camouflage even more effective. One of the other things to keep in mind too, if you don't want to use the burlap, what you can do is just sew the net on the back, and then when you get to an area, you can actually take foliage and stick it in the back. The important thing to remember though, with the foliage, it is going to die and brown on you after a few hours. So normal rule of thumb, if you're going to use natural vegetation, you always try and get leafy vegetation from preferably a hardwood tree, because that'll last the longest. And then after that, depending on what area of the country, your firs or your needles would be next. Grasses, they'll start to brown within 4 to 5 hours. The thing we're going to talk about is the different movement techniques when you're actually on your belly. The first one's going to demonstrate for us is the high crawl. This is when you have to move somewhere rapidly, but you still have a decent chance of getting detected by the enemy. You notice the profile is much higher, and this might be initially where he's just changed into his ghillie suit and he's just coming into the area where he wants to stalk in to get his shot from. So he's got a better vantage point from here, but he's still keeping a low silhouette. Again, this is the least preferred because it does present the largest silhouette. The next one would be the low crawl. Ron's finally starting to get close to his position now, so he's going to lower himself down. And you see what he's going to try and do is grab his weapon up by the sling or the bipod. He keeps it in tight to his body. Again, this is a more rapid movement technique than the sniper low crawl. What he'll do, he'll plant his right elbow forward and then push off with his opposite foot and move forward. Once he gets abreast and his rifle comes up, he'll recock his arm again, cock his foot, and move forward. The last technique is the most preferred and the most time-consuming. This is the sniper low crawl. Head down, weapon in tight along the body, and all he does is push off with his toes and his fingertips. It's a very slow, subtle movement. You're only going to move approximately 4 to 6 inches each time you move. And after every time you move, you stop, take a few breaths, and move on again. It's important when utilizing this movement technique to scan out your next position where you're eventually going to move to, so you have some terrain feature or landmark to aim for as you're crawling along the ground, because you don't want to keep poking your head up too much, remembering that sudden movement attracts people's eyes.
Camouflage while you're stalking is to heel your boot. And like Moen said earlier, when you're stalking, keep your heels down and your feet behind you. As you can see, especially with these boots here, there's not any grime or mud or dirt on them. They shine a little bit with the sunlight. and it definitely goes back. Although the ghillie suit itself kind of blocks out the view of the boots from the air, this is what we'll be seeing. So a technique, most common, is just to take moss or dirt and mud, smear up the boots. Or what else is used are gaiters. People actually make ghillie suits out of gaiters, and they wear the gaiters. They put the gaiters on afterwards. And what's important to remember is if you're going to use gaiters, is that the moulage on your gaiters is extremely short, because it's going to be dragged a long ways, and you don't want to leave a trail of your ghillie material behind you. So keep in mind that if you don't have any gaiters on, and the best thing you have is to muddy up your boots, make them dirty, is always keep your heels down and your feet behind you. And if you know that an aircraft is coming, stop, try and rotate your boots into the brush or underneath some kind of brush. As you can see, from the air, a guy would be very hard to spot from 200 or 300 feet from a scout helicopter or an airplane. A good technique is to take beeswax and coat your zipper up and down because of the different rain, and sometimes it may even get frozen solid, and crawling through the dirt and muck will get it jammed up, and that beeswax will help it stay free so you can unzip and get it back out of your ghillie suit when you need to. One of the things we've done here is we've taken some of the moss, this real thick moss bedding in here, and obviously we just took out a piece of the moss, section of the moss like a hunk of sod, and we applied it to the back of the ghillie suit. And this really limits your working area, but for this, if a guy was just going to stay in this terrain, this would work well. The trick is to find a way to apply it, because if he stands up, it's going to fall down. Even if he's crawling around, it's going to roll back and forth. So one of the things you can do is take some, like even coat hangers, make U-shaped clips out of them, stick it through the sod, and then bend it up so the edges are away from your body, and apply the sod and then cover it back over. And you'd have to have your partner do this for you, or your spotter, and you'd do it for each other. And then cover the clip back up with the sod. And remember, I mean, you're not going to be able to run with this on, but just for general stalking or staying in one place, this will work quite well. As you can see, it stays well with the body, and then when he has his hood on, it'll blend in with the rest of the ghillie suit.
What we're going to do is construct what's called a Yeti. This is a natural ghillie suit, if you will, and very easy to make and pretty effective camouflage for that matter too. And it's easy to put on and take off. The only thing again with the natural camouflage is the fact that it's going to die after a few hours. But for a short-term static position, or if you have to breach some type of wire obstacle, it's a pretty effective technique. So what we've done, we've cut several bows down. Ramon, if you give me that roll of 550 cord, what we're going to do is we're going to trim this bow down a little bit. Now this doesn't have to necessarily be out of pine or evergreen bows. You can use grass and things like that too, depending on what area you're going to be in. We're just using the evergreen just for the ease of demonstration purposes, and also to show that you can also use a ghillie type camouflage for standing up. Thanks. Okay, what we've done, we've cut down a rather large bow, approximately 5 feet in length. And what we're going to do is going to take it, we're going to bend it like a snowshoe, okay? Then we're going to secure ourselves about a 2 to 3 foot length of cordage. It can be 550 cord, it can be jute, whatever material you have at hand. Once we've got that piece, what we're going to do is lash this together almost like we get a snowshoe shaped piece of material.